Welcome to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm your host, Cory Graham. Join us here every Friday night at 8 p.m. or listen anytime via podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, to name just a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where the independent new authors come first. The new book by Rickey Kale is a spiritual reflection on life's lessons through faith and everyday experiences. It's titled, We Are All in School Here. Rickey is with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Rickey, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you, Cory, for having me.
Rickey, can you tell me all about We Are All in School Here? What are readers going to find?
Well, it's my wife came up with the title, and I think it's very appropriate, of our life experiences, our life lessons, and what they're going to find when they read it is a lot of different things that have happened to my wife and I over the years, and we hope that it'll make them think, in retrospect, perhaps, that they had similar things that happened to them, but maybe look at those things in a different way.
Rickey, what kinds of readers did you have in mind for this? Who's your target audience?
Well, I'm very open to where the book goes, just because I want everyone to take a look at it, not just Christians like myself, but maybe people that have been hurt in a church and blame God, and yet it was a man, it wasn't God. And so I'm open to anybody that, has an opportunity to read the book. I know that they will benefit from it, not from me having written it, but mainly because we're trying to let other people know. My wife and I, live these experiences out together, and we did it with the help of God in the process.
So is this your first published work then, Rickey, or have you done this kind of thing before?
No, this is my first published work.
So once you got started on it, you were writing, and then you did the publishing thing. Was this a long process overall?
Well, the process is a lengthy one for the publishing part, of course, but to actually write the book, my wife was reminding me, Jody's my wife, and you'll find her in the book in several places. It took me about a month and a half to actually write the book. And then once I turned it in, there's a lot, as you well know, to get the book in a published condition where it can go out to to wherever it's going to be shown to the public.
Yeah, once you got started on that publishing process, what did you find the most challenging part about that for you?
I don't think there was too much challenging with my helper, as I want to call her. I know she has a different title than a helper, but I consider her my helper at Christian Faith Publishing. And she's just done such an awesome job in explaining things to me. Things went very smooth with her. And if I had any questions, she was more than willing for me to not just to email her or text her, but I have actually called her a couple of times in the process. And she's been more than willing to give me the time to listen to me on the phone.
So I could only imagine what you were thinking and what you were feeling whenever that first copy was in your hands and you're holding We Are All in School Here for the first time, Rickey. What was that like for you?
It was actually amazing. It really was, because my wife has been wanting me to write a book or write about the things that happened to us over the years. And I used to always say, people all have different things going on, and they might not find our situations that interesting, or whatever excuse I gave her for not sitting down and doing it. And then what was very interesting, one of the things that happened that motivated me to do this is because I used to like to construct things around our house, whether we were living in a house or our manufactured home or wherever we were. I used to like to make porches, make decks. I had a friend help me build a carport. And so I was telling our grandson one day after I started writing the book how I was in construction again, but just a different kind of construction. Not one building a deck or a carport or whatever, but actually constructing stories or chapters that other people could read in a book.
So this is your first book. What would you say is the most rewarding aspect of being published now?
Just that other people can see what has happened with Jody and I and maybe relate to different things that happened to them where they didn't understand that God may very well have been at the center of what was going on.
What a great message this book has. Again, the title is We Are All in School Here. It's written by Rickey Kale and published by Christian Faith Publishing, and available pretty much everywhere, like Amazon and Barnes & Noble and iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Rickey, it's been great talking with you tonight. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you for your time, Cory.
Author Seraphina Ember has written a gripping sci-fi novel titled The Luto Forest, and we're going to be talking all about it right now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. I'm happy that Seraphina is joining me. Seraphina, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell me all about what readers are going to get into when they open up The Luto Forest?
Yeah, absolutely. So the book surrounds two sisters that have made it into detective in their department, and they're sent out to help give relief efforts to a small town named Cave Hill, where nothing is as it seems. So while the detectives try to get down to the bottom of things, all of the town's mysterious disappearances and stuff after the earthquake hit, they meet up with some other volunteers who help them along the way. Together, they just try to help out the town in any way possible, and there are some things that come to light that the sisters have to navigate some serious situations and that they've never been in before, so it's pretty wild ride.
Sounds like sci-fi and mystery fans would probably be the most into this.
Absolutely.
So how'd this all come about, Seraphina? How'd you get the idea for this novel?
It's actually kind of crazy. I have very vivid, lucid dreams. So one night I dreamt of two really strong female characters that had to defend a town. And I woke up and just kind of really wanted to tell their story, of course. And I looked at my husband and told him all about the dream. And he said, "You should write a book about it." And here I am.
Have you ever done anything like this before, or is this all kind of new for you?
This is very new to me. Still, dragging the ropes here, figuring things out.
So once you sat down and got started on this, clear up through the publishing and everything, was this a long process overall?
So it's taken me about 6 months to write it, about a year for everything to really come into play.
And so once you started working with your publisher, Newman Springs, what did you find the most challenging part about that publishing process?
Really, I think it was just the nerves from me. The publishers were amazing. They walked me along step by step and have been really great.
That's fantastic. And there's nothing like seeing a finished product, especially when it's your first book. So when the first copy of The Luto Forest finally came in, you were holding it. What was that like for you, Seraphina?
Oh, it was amazing. It was overwhelming joy and nervousness and fear because, I had put so much hard work and all of my pride and joy into this book, and it lays bare now for the world. So it's a little scary thinking about that. But in the end, I realized that it was my own opinion that mattered the most, and I'm proud of what I did.
And so now you're officially a published author. So when you think about that, what's the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
Just the life goal, like the accomplishment of it all. I've always wanted to do something like this, and now I can say that I've finally done it. No matter what happens in the end, I can hold that accomplishment up and say I did it.
And what are the chances that we might see a follow-up to this or some more writing from you here in the future?
There's definitely more writing in the works. For a follow-up for this book, I have had some comments get back to me that they would like to see more, maybe a series go on. But as of right now, there's nothing in the works for that, but there are some other books coming up.
A lot of our listeners right now are authors who are also kind of new to all of this. So is there maybe some advice that you could throw out there for them?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just a normal person. If I can do it, they can do it. Nothing's really holding them back but themselves. It's kind of daunting at first, but once you get down to it, you're going to be really proud of yourself in the end.
Yeah, that's great advice. So it happens to so many of us when we're writing, and that's writer's block. It can be the worst. Do you have to deal with that sometimes?
Yeah, absolutely. A writer's block is always there for everybody. I think it's just how does the characters get from one situation to another? Are there fillers, just some flourishments here and there? So that's always kind of hard, but you get past it eventually.
And are you the kind of author who uses maybe an outline of sorts? Maybe you know kind of how the story is going to go from beginning to end? Or do you just kind of maybe start with an idea and start writing and see where it goes from there?
Both, really. So the first, for Luto Forest, I had the dream. So that gave me a baseline for a lot of things. And then for some of the other books that I'm currently working on, I just kind of had an idea, and I put pen to paper and scratched out a few things here and there, and they just come together as I go.
Well, something I've noticed talking with so many authors here over the years is how many of them also love to read. So, Seraphina, would you call yourself an avid reader?
Oh, yes, it's a very big passion of mine. I love to read all genres. There's nothing that I don't read.
Are there people in your life who could maybe keep you inspired and encouraged along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a really good support group. I have some really close friends and family who pushed me the entire time. And my husband, of course, was always there, guiding me along, helping me. And I really owe a lot to him because he was the one who told me to go after it, to stick to my dreams.
Again, this book is titled The Luto Forest. It's written by Seraphina Ember, and it's published by Newman Springs Publishing, so you can find it pretty much everywhere, like Amazon and Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Seraphina, it's been so nice talking with you tonight and talking all about the Luto Forest. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I'm looking at a book that follows the work and lives of an engineering team working on an advanced aerospace project after the Cold War. It's written by Michael Urban, and it's titled Building 18. Michael is right here with me at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. We're going to talk all about this. Michael, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yes, welcome. Thank you for having me.
Michael, what are readers in store for when they start on Building 18?
Well, hopefully a very unique experience. I lived through a very unique time in aerospace where the culture really changed from the old school to more modern philosophy. But that time period was challenging for the people that had to work the programs. Some of these were, friends of mine, and you saw the struggles. So that people will see how it, working on a secret program, sometimes they make it very glamorous in Hollywood, but in real life, it can be challenging. So you're in for hopefully an exciting but also informative experience as to what a Reagan-era Cold War secret program was like for the people that worked on it.
Interesting. Michael, what kinds of readers do you think this would connect with?
I'm hoping a broad range, but I'm thinking people that are interested in, this is a fictional book, but on historical events, right? It's based on real life. So that people that would be interested in what it was like in the 80s, what was experiences like, people that wanted to see what was it actually like. It wasn't sometimes the glamour. Sometimes you see all this shiny glass and stuff when you go into these secret facilities. And some of them, the ones I've been in, are anything but that. So I'm looking for that type of reader, the one that's, a little interested to see what's happening, but also wants to, hopefully have a good read.
So how'd this all come about? What gave you the idea to start off on this?
Well, I started writing a couple notes, believe it or not, for my kids. My kids are grown. They're grown. They're college grads. They're working. These aren't little kids. And I said, this was a very unique experience because before, when you get to the late 70s and before, it was pretty consistent, the way these programs were run, the aerospace industry. And when you get to maybe the 90s and till today, with the computers, and it's been settled in. But it was this unique transition. So I wanted my kids to know what it was like, what I went through, what some of their neighbors' dads went through. So I started writing notes. And then eventually I told my wife, well, it looks like if we just compile it all together, which is what I did. And so from these notes to my kids, it built up into this book.
So is this the first time you've been published then?
First time for a novel, yes. I've published engineering books. I've published engineering papers. I've published technical documents, but this is the first time for a, for a novel.
That's so exciting. So overall, was this a long journey for you, the writing and publishing and everything?
It took a few years, yes, because, like I just said, it wasn't a focused start. Here's chapter 1, chapter 2, here's my story. It was, boy, we lived through this, we lived through that. This is why, I wasn't at this event or that event, and then bringing it all together. And so it took a little while, but it was a lot of fun. But, it took a year or more. It wasn't something I just slapped together.
Yeah, you have the writing of the book, but then there's that publishing end of things. So once you started working with Covenant, what would you say was the most challenging part of that publishing process for you?
Probably them having to teach me, right? It was, going through it, and Covenant was great, and they were very patient with me, and their people are very good. But it was the challenge of, I should have done this, I should have done that. Then, of course, you have to rewrite things because, they have some good editors, and they'll come back and say, maybe this didn't flow, because, again, it was short stories put together. So the challenging was just keeping focused and taking Covenant's advice and working through this process that, wasn't a technical document, so it was very new to me.
So looking down the road, what are the chances that you might do this again? Do you think you got some more books in you?
I already have a second one out and working on a third one. I've learned to like the process now that I'm retired. I don't just do math books anymore. It's a whole new world for me. And I don't know, it's like you can hem and haw about, could I do it? Or you can just say, you know what, I want to do it and do it, which is what I did. And my wife's been super supportive of me, helping me and everything. So I already got a second book published and I'm working on a third.
Well, again, this book is titled Building 18. It's written by Michael Urban, published by Covenant Books, and available pretty much everywhere, like Amazon and Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, Michael, it's been so great talking with you tonight and learning all about Building 18. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you so much for hosting me. I really appreciate it. It's been exciting for me to do this.
Author Thomas Lynn Burrows has written a profound exploration of prophetic biblical teachings. It's titled Olivet Discourse Decoded. Thomas is here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. We're going to be talking all about it. Thomas, welcome. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you very much. Appreciate being here.
Thomas, can you tell me all about what you've written in Olivet Discourse Decoded?
Olivet Discourse is a message that Jesus Christ spoke the Monday before he was crucified on the Mount of Olives. It's Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21. All the same story written by 3 different Gospels. I've discovered actually that my birthday was the beginning of a generation that is mentioned in verse 34 of Matthew 24, when Jesus said, "Verily I tell you, this generation will not pass till all of these things be fulfilled." Knowing the beginning of the generation, the scripture actually tells us the length. That gives us a time period on or before that Jesus Christ is going to return to the earth. Not only does the generation show the time period, but it's also confirmed by 2 other scriptural things: the tabernacle, and there's a Jewish kind of like whether it's a myth or their lore, that they believe that the Messiah is going to come back at the year 6000. All 3 of those events land on the same year, 2031. But there's also some other information that's actually come to me even since I wrote the book. And so there's going to be a rapture, then a tribulation period, and then Jesus Christ's return. Well, the return of Jesus being at the end of 2031, there has to be a time period for a tribulation period. The scriptures indicate that it to be 7 years. But there's a verse in Matthew 24:22 that says, "The time shall be shortened, or not even the elect would be saved." So this fall is 6 years from the end of 2031. And I have other information that I believe that the Lord has showed me that we are going to be raptured and the start of the tribulation is going to be this fall. That information is not in the book, but it leads you to that synopsis if you know Scripture, and you know that. I didn't bring those conclusions into the book, but the 2031 conclusion is there with proof. The day that I was born was September 24th, 1950. And the parable of the fig tree, spoken of and interpreted in the correct way, shows you that 1950 is the start of the generation. The day that I was born, the sky over the east coast of the United States and Canada turned black like night between 12 noon and 3 p.m., the same time period that it was dark when Jesus Christ hung on the cross. That was September 24th. The next day, on the 25th, there was a total lunar eclipse. Then the day after that, the 26th, it was the first day of the Festival of Tabernacles, or Sukkot. It's the last Jewish festival of the year, a 7-day festival. Jesus points to a prophecy in Daniel, the abomination of desolation, in verse 15. And that verse, chapter and verses are 9, 24, 25, 26, and 27. The book shows something happened later on in 927, but it didn't happen in 1950. It happened later on in something that's called a tetrad. Tetrad is 4 total lunar eclipses of the moon in a row. The lunar eclipse on 9/25, September 25, 1950, that was the 4th lunar eclipse of a tetrad that was in 1949 and 50. There was some crazy events that happened in 49 and 50.
I think a lot of readers will definitely be blessed by this book. Again, it's titled Olivet Discourse Decoded. It's written by Thomas Lynn Burrows, published by Christian Faith Publishing, and available at Amazon and Barnes & Noble and iTunes and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, Thomas, thank you again for coming on the show and telling me all about your work. It was nice chatting with you.
Nice chatting with you, too. Appreciate it.
Sitting down right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, author Amanda Abraham. Amanda, welcome. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
You have a new book out. It's titled Wanted. I'm really curious about this, Amanda. Can you tell me what readers are going to be in store for?
Of course. The Wanted is a story of suspense, adventure, and transformation. In the novel, an emerging columnist, Evelyn Holtz, is looking to rewrite her future. She has 3 dreams, sort of like a vision for a perfect life, but right when it's becoming together, it all fell apart. She attempts to move forward, only to realize that she's being pursued by something that's really not good. She also realizes something else is pursuing her, and this something might save her. It's almost like an angel on the shoulder and a devil on the shoulder. And it's up to her to decide what to do and how to move forward. This novel is the first of a trilogy, so I pick up from there in my second book, Disappearance.
Oh, Amanda, what kinds of readers do you think would get into this the most?
Yeah, my target audience is generally women, but do I think only women would enjoy the book? Absolutely not. The story overall is based on a woman's perspective and experience, but as for target age group, I don't really believe there is one. The story is one of relatability, so I'm looking to meet readers where they're at personally, validate the emotions they may be feeling, and with any luck, help them move forward. Of course, Wanted is not a self-help book, but I do pray that my readers can find healing in the pages.
So how'd this all come about? Where'd this idea come from?
You know, I had the strangest life experience about a year ago, and I ended up in a hospital. I wasn't the patient, but my papa, a very close family member of mine, was. And as I was there, I began to notice like a dystopian subculture. As I was noticing this and taking note of different mannerisms, my imagination really started to run wild and ideas began to snowball. I asked myself question after question, and each answer helped me to build the foundation for both my title and the series.
So have you ever done anything like this when it comes to writing and publishing, or are you sort of treading on new ground?
This is not my first published work. However, it is my first published novel. In December of 2022, I published a memoir entitled Dear Writing, which is all about self-motivation, creating joy with the little things in life, and finding your passion.
So once you started on this, was this altogether a long process, the writing, publishing, and all that?
You know, like most writers, I restarted my story 2 or 3 times before settling in. But from idea to completion, Wanted took me 9 months to write. 3 of those were spent in the first few chapters, gaining my footing and kind of laying out the plot the way I wanted to. But from the creation of my final draft, at least the one that I sent out to beta readers, to completion, my book took me 6 months to write.
So you had your manuscript ready and you hooked up with your publisher, Covenant Books. Amanda, what was the most challenging part of that publishing process for you?
I had a very hard time trying to decide what I wanted my cover design to look like. I am not an artist. I really don't come up with great ideas for that type of thing. Covenant did an incredible job putting my cover design together, but in the beginning stages, it was difficult to just know what I wanted, how to bring my imagination to life, and how to hook readers just from judging a book by its cover.
And then it was finally a real thing. Your first copy came in and you were holding Wanted in your hands for that first time, Amanda. What was that like for you?
Oh, this experience, it is truly surreal. I feel like I could write a million more books in my lifetime and it really wouldn't get old.
I think readers are going to love this book. Again, it's titled Wanted. It's written by Amanda Abraham and it's published by Covenant Books. You can find it everywhere pretty much, like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iTunes, and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Amanda, thanks again for being here. It was really great talking tonight.
Thank you. It was great speaking with you, too.
Peace and Comfort. It's the new book written by Karen Charlebois, and it's an uplifting and faith-filled collection of inspiring reflections. We're going to talk all about it. Karen is right here with me at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Karen, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Karen, can you tell me all about Peace and Comfort? What can readers find when they get into it?
Peace and Comfort started off, actually, I count it as a gift to me. It started, I didn't set out to write a book at all. It happened prior to 2000. My father, being in Virginia and I live in Florida, he was very ill with leukemia. And as it turned out, he tried to do some remodeling in a bathroom, and it affected his throat, which turned out to be a stroke. Upon hearing that he was going to have a feeding tube, I tried to sit down and write something that would be comforting for him, a letter. I sat down to write a letter. It just came out in the form of the poem called Going Home. And it was actually so sad that I couldn't read it to him. You know, I thought it doesn't sound very uplifting for him. And from there, they just seemed to come to me. I would have to keep a pen and paper beside my bed, and sometimes 3 of these would come to me at night, and I would write them down. So that's actually how they came about, to try to bring comfort to my dad. And of course, I was not able to be with him unexpectedly. He got over the pneumonia. He was still in a weakened state, but he was supposed to come home right before Thanksgiving. And then I got the call from my mom one morning that he had just passed in his sleep. It wasn't expected at all. So it was, a shock to just get that call. So from there, they just kept coming to me.
Well, Karen, what kinds of readers do you think would connect with this book the most?
I think anybody who wants to grow in their faith, and faith to me is everything. Without my faith, I couldn't get through everything that I've been through in my life. So I basically lost my dad and my husband the same day, just by actions of my husband that day, which I won't go into those details. But just being faced with death about 3 times in my life. I was told that I had a brain aneurysm when my youngest son was about 2 years old. When you go through these things, and humans can only say so much to you, that I always tell everybody, just open your Bible. When it's 3 a.m. and you need comfort, that's the best thing to do. So I'm hoping people, there's some uplifting ones in there. They're not all about grief and tragedy, but just to get in touch with your faith and to never give up. That's the main thing, is to never give up. That would be my advice to anybody.
So once you started working with your publisher, Christian Faith, Karen, what would you say was the most challenging part about that publishing process for you?
Well, for me, it was my eyesight, which I mentioned to you. Suddenly, 3 years ago, I began having visual auras in both eyes and everything looking too bright, like I had just come from the eye doctor. That was a real challenge to proofread the book over and over again, because as I mentioned to you, with the kind of blind spots in both eyes, I have to really enlarge everything and focus on it for a long time. So I used to be able to just glance at things. In fact, I was a speed reader. So that's definitely a challenge. And it's a challenge in my everyday life now, almost going on 4 years. So that's why I'm saying that I've been through many things, and I just have to keep going, to never give up. And faith is the main thing that has brought me through everything I've had to deal with.
Well, I think a lot of readers are going to find peace and comfort in the pages of this book. It's titled Peace and Comfort, written by Karen Charlebois, and it's published by Christian Faith Publishing, so get it everywhere pretty much, like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, Karen, it's been such a joy talking with you tonight and learning all about peace and comfort. Thanks again for talking with me.
Well, thank you.
Modern Day Job is the new book by Cory Baker, and we're going to talk all about it. Cory is here with me right now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Cory, welcome. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to be talking with you and learning about Modern Day Job, Cory. Can you tell me all about it?
I mean, it's a really detailed look. It's a truthful look at my life from the time I was born all the way up until present time. But life didn't start out bad. It started out fantastic. I was an all-star wrestler and football player and all that good stuff in high school. Then I got involved, in Oxycontin in my 18 or 19 years old. And from there, life started to spiral downhill, So they're going to get a good look at my life, the progression, the use of drugs, how it gets worse and worse and worse. And eventually it'll try to kill you eventually.
Well, Cory, what kinds of readers do you think would connect with this the most?
Anybody that's been affected by drug addiction, anybody that's lost somebody to drugs, anybody that struggles with drugs, all sorts of readers, really, or maybe even people who don't really have an idea about what drug addiction is and the progression that it takes in someone's life.
So how'd this all come about? What gave you the idea to write this?
So I wanted to write my story for a while, but every time I would go to write it, I would pick up the pen and write maybe like 2 paragraphs, and I would give up. So, I found myself in a really bad prison in Dauphin County. It's in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And that was a real eye-opener. It wasn't like the prisons I was used to going to. This was like a real deal prison. So the only way to get through it was to write my story. I was really depressed. I didn't want to continue living, and something told me to write. So I put pen to paper while I was in prison, and I wrote up this story.
So was this a long process, the writing and publishing and everything?
Altogether, probably maybe like 2 years. It took me about 5 solid months to write the book, and I had all the time in the world. So, I spent, 12 hours straight on this book every day for about 5 months. The process wasn't too long, but it wasn't too short.
So you had the book ready, you were working with your publisher, Newman Springs. Cory, what was the most challenging part about that publishing end of things for you?
Everything went pretty smooth with the publishing, getting the book made. I did find some minor mistakes, but, I did have the option to final draft it, so I overlooked it as well.
So I could only imagine what you were thinking whenever that first copy came in. You're holding it in your hands, Cory. What was that like?
Yeah, that was a really, really cool time because, I envisioned it when I started writing. And the whole time I was writing it, I was going around telling people, this is going to be big. It's just really, and I'm dead serious. And some of them believe me, and some of them just, brushed me off.
So looking ahead, do you think you might write more and publish more?
Well, so far after this book has come out, some pretty neat things have happened in my life. Not enough to write a story about, but I'm still 35, so, But as far as writing a book, it wouldn't be a memoir. It would have to be, something else.
So now it's official. You're a published author, Cory. What would you say is the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
The best thing in the world is giving my book to somebody who needs to read it, And I've gotten nothing but positive feedback from the book. So many people have reached out. But the most rewarding part is giving a book to somebody that, I genuinely want them to have the book.
Well, so many of our listeners are authors just starting out. So, Cory, is there maybe some advice that you could throw out there for them?
I guess my advice would be, as far as being a writer, man, I didn't set out to be an author. This is kind of just something that came to me, but I do have a good way of putting words to paper, and I have a good way of getting my point across very easily for readers to know. So my advice in my eyes would be to, keep it simple so that people maybe that aren't the greatest at reading dialect and keeping up with characters and, maybe keeping it simple for readers to be able to easily to read the book would be my advice.
I think so many people will find hope and help in the pages of this book. Again, it's titled Modern Day Job. It's written by Cory Baker and published by Newman Springs Publishing. So Go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or iTunes, even traditional brick-and-mortar stores, you'll be able to pick it up. Cory, thank you for being on the show. It was really great talking.
Thank you so much.
Author Latoya Carter has just written a new book, and it follows a young girl's journey to find herself after unexpectedly moving away from her childhood home. The name of the book is A Best Friend's Promise. Latoya is sitting right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Latoya, welcome. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you. Hello.
Latoya, can you tell me all about A Best Friend's Promise? What are readers going to be getting into here?
Well, basically, A Best Friend's Promise. It's about a teenage girl named Susie, and her mom lets her know that her and her dad aren't together anymore and that they will be moving. So Susie immediately is just devastated because she's grown up where she is all her life. And so she's like, no. But then her mom's like, trust me, it'll be okay. So then she follows her mom. She knows her mom has her best interest. So she and her mom moved out of state, and she starts going to a new high school. And we know being teenagers going to a new high school isn't easy because you have to find new friends and all of these things. She's nervous. So she meets a girl named Lynn, and her and Lynn gets to know each other, and they become best friends. And so basically, her and Lynn everything's going fine. They're friends. They plan on doing stuff. And then she makes a promise. Lynn makes her a promise. And from there on out, it just starts going, whoa. And I can't really say, I don't want to give anything up of the book on that part, but it gets very interesting after that promise is made. And then everything is like, wow.
Well, what sorts of readers did you have in mind when you were working on it?
It just was like a suspense, I was basically going for something that's like a thriller. It's interesting and it'll keep you just wanting more and just to keep your mind going and just and make you want to read it in one day, basically.
So, Latoya, how did this all come about? What gave you the idea to start this?
Well, actually, I wrote a story in my freshman year of high school, and it was for my language class, and my teacher ended up liking it. And I held on to that story up until now. And I was telling my best friend, Kimberly, about it. And she was like, you should write a book. And I was like, no, I don't think so. And she's like, no, that's a good story. People will like it. And I'm like, okay, I guess so. So then I found Newman Springs, and then I wrote it, and here we are.
So is this your first published work then?
Yes, it is.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
So being this was your first one, and this is a lot of new ground for you, was this a long journey overall, the writing and publishing and everything?
Actually, no. It's pretty much like once I get a pen and a paper, I write and I just won't stop. I can come up with anything. It comes natural. I just love expressing myself. With the world just being all over the place in today's time, it's just that's where I find my peace at.
And then that day finally came. That first copy was there. You're holding this in your hands for the first time, Latoya. What was that like for you?
My heart was just I was very thankful, though. I just thanked God, and I just gave it to him from that moment on. And I'm just excited as it unravels. It's as it all just comes to, I'm it's unfamiliar ground, but it's excitement, but then it's nervousness, and then you're anxious, and then you're so it's kind of all over the place.
We have a lot of people listening right now who are authors just starting out. So do you have maybe some advice that you could throw out there?
Basically, just keep going and just never give up and continue to write down whatever comes to your mind. And it might be slow at first, but just keep going and keep going. And you never know, that one day will come where everything will just blow up and be amazing. You just have to have patience.
Well, I think a lot of readers are going to love this book. Again, it's titled A Best Friend's Promise. It's written by Latoya Carter, published by Newman Springs Publishing, and available in places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Latoya, it's been so wonderful talking with you tonight, learning all about A Best Friend's Promise. Thanks again.
Thank you, and I appreciate it so much.
Choices, God's Greatest Gift, the Reason We're Here on Earth. This is a thought-provoking exploration of faith and purpose, written by Darrell D. Wichers. And Darrell is right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. We're going to be talking all about it. Darrell, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Hey, I appreciate, Cory, having this call and sharing my book with everyone. I look forward to it.
I look forward to learning about Choices, God's Greatest Gift. Darrell, can you tell me what readers are going to get into here?
Well, the book called Choices, God's Greatest Gift, The Reason We're Here on Earth, the key part of that title is the reason we're here on Earth. As most people know, God created us as a spirit, and then he fused our spirit into these physical bodies for a temporary period of time on Earth. And I got thinking about that, and I thought, if God created us to live forever as a spirit, why do we have to spend this temporary period of time on Earth? And my book, that's what prompted me starting to write this book.
What sort of readers did you have in mind for it? Who do you think this would connect with the most?
Actually, anybody, whether you're a Christian or a non-Christian, there's probably questions you've had about your life that deal with Christianity or God or Jesus or why we're here or what's my purpose or who am I? And I try and answer a lot of those questions in my book. So it's really for everyone.
So have you done this kind of thing before, writing, publishing, or is this all kind of new for you?
No, actually, this is new. I'm not a writer now. In my technical life, early on, I did write some technical things, but not anything like this. So I'm really not a writer by profession or have any expertise in it. So this was kind of a learning curve for me to bring this book together.
Being that a lot of this was new for you, was this a long journey overall for you, the writing and publishing, the whole thing?
Oh, man, is that a story unto itself? This all started back in 2006, if you can believe that, where I have this question about why are we here on Earth for a short period of time. I was at a men's retreat, and they had a speaker, and he talked about this, but he never really gave an answer as to why we're here if we're meant to live forever. Over quite a long period of time, I kind of asked God about this in my prayers, and then one day in 2006, I started getting this information coming into my head, and I go, where's this information coming from? And the second that I thought that, I knew it was God was giving it to me. And there was a lot of information in this, and so I wrote it all down. I actually have the title. I actually had what the book cover would look like. Don't ask me how this all came together, but I knew in my mind what it was, what it should look like, what the title was, but I didn't really know what I was going to write. It did answer my question as to why we're here on Earth, and that's what prompted me to start putting down some information on the book. And I didn't really write in it for about 10 years. I did write down some questions that I thought I want to answer and then put them in this book. And then after about 10 years, I started to realize that I'm kind of getting prompted, I think, by God to get this done. And so I had written a lot of questions. And I looked at the questions, and then I started writing answers to these questions. And then after a while, I realized that's the format I'm going to use for my book. Each of my chapters, which there are 21 of them, are a question. And that chapter I use to answer these questions. And that's how my book came about. But it took 20 years. And now I'm working on my second book, and I've got outlines for 2 others.
The book is titled Choices, God's Greatest Gift, The Reason We Are Here on Earth. This is written by Darrell D. Wichers, published by Christian Faith Publishing, and available in places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Darrell, it's been fantastic talking with you today. Thanks again for being here.
You bet. Thank you very much, Cory. I appreciate it. Puggle
Snuggle. It's the name of the new book written by Bayless, and It's a charming tale designed to help young readers cope with losing a pet and giving them a humane ending. Tim is right here with me now at the show, and we're going to talk all about this book. Tim, welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
Cory, I appreciate you having me.
I'm curious to learn all about Puggle Snuggle. Tim, can you tell me what you've written about here?
Well, I wrote a children's book, and my goal was to help kids understand the process of when they have to say goodbye to their dog and how it happens with euthanasia and putting the dog down. It's an important topic.
How did this all come about? What gave you this idea?
You know, I love pets. I love dogs. I mean, I've always had a dog. Yeah, I've had cats as well. When I was a kid, we put our dog down, and it kind of hit me by surprise.
So, Tim, is this your first published work, or have you done this kind of thing before?
No, I actually host a talk show, a morning show on a radio station in South Bend, Indiana, and I've always been in radio, and I love just telling stories and hearing stories. So dogs and pets is always a very popular topic. So I guess I just kind of took it from talking about my dog to writing a book.
So being your first one, was this a long journey overall, the writing, publishing, and everything?
Writing it wasn't hard. It was kind of all in my head, and I kind of wrote it down fairly quickly. But then finding a publisher and an illustrator, it was tough to do. That was a long process.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and this art looks fantastic. So that was a little bit of a challenge to find that right illustrator, you said.
It was. Her name's Elena Harmon. She's fantastic. I found her online, and the way I did it was, I was trying to find an artist that, I guess, met my vision, and then, or her style, rather, with what I was thinking, and then the price range. So I actually found her online. And the process of the illustration was really tough because I emailed her exactly what I wanted each page to look like. And then she would send a sketch, and then I'd correct it or approve it. And then she would color it, and then I'd approve it. So the illustration was actually the longest process, but she is fantastic. And I'm very glad I went with her.
And there's nothing like seeing that finished product, especially after all that hard work. So when your first copy came in, Puggle Snuggle is in your hands for the first time, Tim. What was that like?
It was great. It was awesome. It was like a celebration. My girlfriend and I went out to a really nice dinner. She treated me and made sure that we celebrated properly, and it was a good feeling. The only thing better than that is people responding to it and talking about how it's actually helping them and helping their kids, and they're enjoying it. That's one thing I really wanted to talk about with you was, it is a tough topic, but the book is fun. It is a kid's book. I would say between the ages of 5 and 10. That's right. The target area. I was always thinking a 6 or 7 year old, but it's a fun book. It has a bunch of jokes, a lot of poop jokes, a lot of singing and playing. It's a fun book with a serious topic.
So looking ahead, Tim, what are the chances you might do this again and publish some more?
I would love to write another book. After you read Puggle Snuggle, you see that little Alex, the girl in the book, after she had to say goodbye to her Puggle, she did get another Puggle that loves to snuggle, and her name's Pepper, and that's actually my dog now. And I would love to continue writing books based around Puggles and cats and all kinds of dogs. But yes, I would love to write another book with my current dog, Pepper, being the topic.
And something I've noticed with a lot of authors here over the years is a lot of them also love to read. So, Tim, does that describe you? Do you love to read as well?
The only thing I've ever really read is autobiographies. I love biographies. I love biographies. I love stories about celebrities. One of my favorites is Artie Lang. I really enjoy reading his biographies. I just always like those. But besides that, the only children's book I've ever read, and I was pretty hooked on them, was the Berenstain Bears. And the reason why I read so many was because my mom was always okay with letting me read them because they were always a message. The Berenstain Bears and Trouble with Bullies, the Berenstain Bears and Problem with Too Much TV. But I was always allowed to read those, and I read a ton of those when I was a kid.
Well, this book is definitely needed. It has a wonderful message. Again, it's titled Puggle Snuggle. It's written by Tim Bayless, published by Covenant Books, and available pretty much everywhere, Amazon and Barnes & Noble and iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Tim, it's been so wonderful talking with you and learning all about this book. Thanks again.
Cory, thank you for taking the time. I really hope everyone gives it a chance.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. We hope to see you back here every Friday night at 8 p.m. or listen anytime via podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, to name just a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.